Hello!
Hi!
Welcome back to Bonnet Babble for another episode of our rantcast.
Yep.
Yeah.
How do you like the new background?
Yeah, we had to change it. It was bugging out on the last one. It was driving me insane.
She kept getting distracted and it was
Well,
frustrating.
it's like I was reading stuff over here and out the corner of my eye I could just see it, like, having a bit of a moment. Right, let's get on with it then.
You can thingy it.
No, I can filter it, but we want to do it all in order of posting, don't we? So I kind of scatter about a bit between, like my brain does. Let's see, it's Sicknote culture next. That was the next one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
Exactly. So, I need a quick sip of coffee, which is stupid considering how hot it is in here. I put the tumble dryer
been
on
told
and it's
that
nice
if you-
weather. It's just a bad plan.
Well, I've been told that if you're really, really hot, like hot weather, and then drink a hot drink,
I have
it's
heard
meant
this
to cool
too.
you down.
I'm convinced it's total bollocks. Anyway, so now we move on to something a little bit more political, which is a post I wrote about an article I'd seen in the Daily Mail. Why anyone would read that rag, I do not know. It popped up on my newsfeed for some reason on my Google News thing on my phone.
Like, ooh.
Yeah, and I was like, what's that? That looks inflammatory. Let's read it. So I did. And then I got enraged and it just sort of set off this whole chain of events.
You must have this thing in your head that goes, this will enrage me.
It'll-
I'm going to read it.
Yeah, it'll force you into action to actually do something. Not what you're supposed to be doing, but something. Yay. So, Sicknote culture. And, I don't like reading the news because it does give me rage. I do mostly avoid it, but sometimes I
mostly
just...
depressing.
It is. And sometimes I can't help myself sometimes. It's like, ooh, what's that? So yes, it was our Prime Minister Rishi has been ranting about how we have a sick note culture and we all need to get off our backsides into work. And, those benefits that he seems to think are just handed out to everybody, completely ignoring all the hoops of fire that we all have subjected through. He wants to cut all of those too, because apparently we're all frauds. So that's nice.
Passing everyone off.
Yeah,
Same,
I was,
same brush.
I was obviously reading between the lines there, but, that was my interpretation. That's what I took away from it.
This is the information I've got because I get it from you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. As we learned from where, I did the green paper response and only read the bit that said consultation questions and therefore missed the first 27 questions, I do tend to do things and come away with half the picture and then formulate a rage-based opinion. And then it just turns out that I've not actually read it properly. Oops. So, mental health crisis, you say? Based on what? So I then went down a 2-day rabbit hole scouring the... What does ONS stand for? Office of National Statistics.
I honestly haven't got a clue,
Something like that.
but it sounds smart.
Yeah. So I was digging through all of their freedom of information requests to see if I could find any pertinent data. And there wasn't any, apart from how many people had time off sick. It didn't really go into the why or wherefores. It just, I think later on in this whole series, I found a report from the ONS that talks about, how many people have been signed off sick for how long, and then there's nice big categories as to what the reason given was, and there's the biggest reason is unknown, which
Baffling.
it gives me rage. Yeah. So
is like this is this just based on mental health or is it all off sick?
it's all off sick, the one that the ONS does.
All sick leave.
All sick leave.
So, for example, say if you had an accident at work,
Yeah.
and that forced you off sick.
Yeah. That would be reported on their sick leave. Yeah. That's what I mean. It's not granular enough. It doesn't actually give you enough detail.
No.
Anyway, so having not found what I wanted, I moved on to NHS Digital. And I couldn't really find anything clear going through their reports or freedom of information requests either. It was kind of like There was a load of like rolling reports on things like IAPT and how, 80% of people had seen, some form of recovery within 8 sessions. It's like, well, yes, because you only take people that, have a situational issue. You don't take people that have more complex problems. You ignore them and leave them to fend for themselves. So that annoyed me as well when I found that. I was like, well, that's a load of rubbish. If you were trying to help everybody, there's no way the statistics would look like that. Do you know what I mean?
It's all just shocking.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, that just made me want to bash my head against a brick wall, to be honest. So when I failed to find any actual data on why I believe there's so many of us on this sinking ship full of holes with rotten lifeboats, I decided, hey, let's write my own freedom of information request. Surely the NHS actually have this nitty-gritty data that will demonstrate the sheer scale of the problem.
Your optimism
well,
astounds me.
Considering that we've got politicians making all of these, sweeping statements, you'd think it would be based on some form of granular data, wouldn't you?
Well, you would have thought, especially if they're going to take drastic measures,
Exactly.
You would have thought they'd have the entire information right there in front of them so they can base their drastic measures on this.
But I don't, in all of my digging, I haven't found anywhere that said, oh, this is based on these stats.
And you've gone over and read things again.
I mean, maybe. But
nothing obvious sticking out.
No. And if he does have those statistics, I think yes.
I can't really say it properly.
I think he's based his decision based on things like how the increase of people claiming PIP, for example. But I don't think it's anything more granular than that. I don't think he's actually dug into the but why and wherefores of it, which is what I was then trying to do.
But you would have thought they would.
Well, you would, wouldn't you?
Why would?
Yeah. So strap in for the boring bit. I'll try and make it amusing. Now, on the upside with this whole series is we can consolidate a lot of it.
Yeah.
So maybe I don't read all this out. Maybe we just go straight on to the review bits where I have a little rant about each point.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, right, let me find those. Bear with me, listener. Where is it? That's the question. Is that the first one? Yeah, because the response, that's just when I got a response and I literally mashed a post together of this is what I asked for, this is what they said back. It wasn't anything.
That's why it says review.
Part 1, review, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's open that one. Okay, so the very first question I asked for data on was how many people in the UK aged 18 to 75 have a diagnosed mental health condition, split by gender and ICB, covering, and I gave them a smattering of different conditions. I sort of said including but not limited to. I included things like eating disorders and neurodevelopmental disorders as well.
Just for everybody that doesn't know, what's ICB?
I don't know what ICB stands for. Integrated Care Board thing. Something like that. It's a fancy smanchy word that doesn't really mean anything, basically. And I've said, please try and exclude duplicates where individuals are diagnosed with more than one condition. Obviously, with my own personal experience, I know that ADHD has comorbidities with anxiety, depression, PTSD, probably the rest of the bloody list as well. And then I've asked the same question for children under CALMS, split by gender, and ICB. Their response. So, acronym that I can never pronounce. The Mental Health Services Dataset collects data on people of all ages who have been referred for talking therapies for conditions such as depression or anxiety. However, recording levels of diagnoses in the Mental Health Services Dataset are usually too low for analysis, except in some specific cases. So, my response for that is, how can the dataset be too low to analyse if our PM is taking potshots at the Sicknote culture in the UK? If we don't have a mental health crisis, why are there so many people claiming PIP for mental health reasons? Why are there so many people on long-term sick for mental health reasons?
I honestly don't know, because after COVID, it was all out saying how it's affecting people mentally.
Well, do you know, I actually found a pretty graph of that. But then I don't believe any of the numbers anyway based on this response, because, you know, the data the NHS has is just half-cocked. It's awful. So actually, it probably has risen from COVID, because I think a lot of us, you know, suddenly had a complete break from all the responsibilities and pressures of life, and were, like, you know, really switched off and, you know, started intravenously drinking Baileys like I did.
Mama's gin.
Yeah. And then, you know, they're released back into the wild again, you know, to be a cog in the machine. And they realise just how utterly dire and dreary it all is. Like, oh, delightful. So I think a lot of people have they've hit burnout because their tolerance is reduced.
It's not just about, like, doing nothing for however many months we were in lockdown, to then suddenly being thrown back into the world.
Yeah, it was the lack of social activity.
The people that did live alone, they couldn't.
The isolation was really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a few people that really suffered with their mental health because of that.
Yeah, mine definitely got worse during. Anyway,
that shocks me, because you're not massively social as it is.
No, but at least I've got a choice.
Yes,
usually, and I can choose to be a hermit. You know, but when it's not allowed, that's a whole different kettle of fish.
Oh yeah.
So, their second bit of the response was, this is because depending on the type of service referred to or the type of care professional involved in care, we may not expect to have a clinically coded diagnosis recorded for the person as part of their care. These issues mean that while NHSDS, that's a real mouthful, that one, can provide information on the number of people with a diagnosis of depression or anxiety, the information will be incomplete, meaning making any interpretation difficult to carry out. So I've said, well, this one gave me the rage, particularly the bit about, you know, we may not expect to have a clinically coded diagnosis. Why? Why are we handing out Smarties when nobody's been given? So why not? How can people be, you know, diagnosed and therefore medicated without one? You know, and my really, like, apples and oranges comparison here was, do we conduct operations on people without a diagnosis? No! So why is this any different?
You just... I don't know. I did, to be honest, it was only, last year?
You're clucking again. Bloody bracelets.
Sorry. It was only, like, last year where I didn't know that I had ADHD.
Oh, you were on an absolute boatload of drugs, weren't you?
I were. I was really rattled. Yeah. And I've actually got a picture somewhere of all of the medication I was taking. And I had to remember them so many different times of the day, which I usually forgot. I was really good with the morning ones. Yeah. It's the afternoon ones
My trouble is I snooze my alarm if I'm in the middle of, like, a hyperfixation, and then it turns itself off after a couple of snoozes.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
Listen to the first one. But I didn't know. And they just shoved me full of lots of different colourful tablets.
Yeah, colourful, you know,
my mum and I would...
Rainbow Smarties.
Well, my mum was really jealous because I had really colourful ones. She didn't.
Well, I've got flower power pills now, so...
Yeah. Not going to tell her that one.
So the part 3 of their response is, although we do publish a count of people diagnosed with each condition as a provisional, primary or secondary diagnosis that is recorded in NHSDS, broken down by year, this can be found here, and they've sent me a fun link. I had a quick scan of the link. It was a horrible spreadsheet. It was huge. It literally had every single thing someone could be diagnosed with, both physical and mental. And in my quick scan, right, my brain went, what is that? One of the diagnoses they had on here was mental and behavioural disorders due to the use of tobacco. Now, I'm not a medical expert, but I have never in my life heard of that being a thing.
I mean, withdrawal, they might get a bit angry and testy.
Yeah, but why does that need to be a standalone diagnosis thing?
I don't know. I'm just trying to think.
That's a symptom of something else, in my opinion. But anyway, and they also have some very outdated diagnostic terms on there, such as Asperger's syndrome, which, you know,
It's now umbrellaed by
it's been
autism.
umbrellaed under other things.
Well,
So,
no, they've umbrellaed it all now by neurodivergent.
yeah,
That's it.
exactly. So I think they need to do some housekeeping at the very least. And I did say that I'd do a pretty graph on the relevant conditions, but as I got further along with the review of their responses, I realised that there really wasn't enough data. Despite being sent a gigantic spreadsheet, the rest of it was, we don't record this, and that sort of stuff. So I was just like, well, I can't do that. Anyway. Their fourth part was, we also published the number of referrals broken down by the primary reason for referral, and they sent me another fun spreadsheet. And it shows how many mental health referrals have occurred. The largest concern here is there's a category called unknown, which seems to be what the majority are lumped into. And the time period that they sent me wasn't very helpful either. It was 2018, 2019. So it was all kind of pre-COVID and doesn't really demonstrate the scale of the problem today.
No.
You know, if they'd shown me both, like now and then, that would show the difference. Cool. But also it's not granular enough. It's just, oh, we don't know. That's nice, thanks.
Yeah.
And
wasn't sent notes at that point.
Yeah, no, apparently not. Yeah. And then the fifth part was, we could not exclude duplicates as this would involve some form of ranking in patients' conditions, which is not possible. It's not impossible. You just got to have the vision for it. Therefore, some patients in the analysis would be counted more than once. Like, okay, so isn't that kind of core to generating statistics, being able to isolate and discount duplicates?
Yes.
You know, just, again, I'm not a statistician, whatever. What's the job role? A statistician. Whatever. Somebody who deals with statistics, okay? I'm not one of those people. Can't even say the word, so I'm definitely not one of those people. So the very, very first question that I asked, which you'd think would be straightforward, of, you know, how many people have a diagnosis for something that falls under the mental health umbrella? Don't know is the answer. From NHS Digital. Pass. Next question.
No, don't know.
Yeah, computer says no. So yeah, that was part one. And then, do we do all of them? We may as well. It doesn't take that long to go through everything. Part two. This is only a 2-minute read, look.
Yeah.
I think by this point I was just like, oh, rubbish. So, the second question I asked was, of those diagnosed, how many are currently prescribed SSNRIs, SSRIs, beta blockers, antipsychotics, mood stabilisers, stimulants, sleeping tablets, basically all the smarties, for adults and by children, by gender and by ICB. And then, knowing my own habit and other people's habits of, you know, sometimes just coming off everything for a laugh, let's see how I cope without these things. And do they really do anything?
I did.
Yeah.
A doctor told me to literally just cut it
Just,
all off.
yeah, but he told you to do it cold turkey though, didn't he?
Yeah, that was awful.
So irresponsible. Anyway, so I then asked, you know, of those diagnosed, how many have previously been prescribed these Smarties? Because it doesn't mean that their condition is better, it just means they've likely been diagnosed with the wrong thing, and what they've been given to manage it is ineffective. And then I sent them an approximate list of medication, but it didn't cover like stimulant medications, which I just went into a little bit more of a rant about. So their response was, we do not collect information on patient medications. MHSDS version 5 does have a table to record medication prescription, but it was a pilot table and no data has been collected into it, and it will be removed in the next version. Okay, so I don't really have much to comment on that other than wowzers. So they considered recording the information, which I'm sure most of us with an iota of common sense would agree it would be a good record or statistic to have, and then they changed their minds and actually didn't populate it for the pilot and are not going to use it going forward. And to me, that's just a brilliant use of healthcare funding. Let's do a pilot and then not do anything with it. Somebody would have had to populate this stupid report with all those tables and figure out where the information was going to come from and all that sort of stuff. And they poured money into it and then not used it.
They the people that started it probably really wanted to go on with it, and then their funding got
Oh,
cut.
yeah, probably. So yeah, again, you know, I've just had a little rant about no wonder it's the NHS is straining at the seams, and no wonder the NHS mental health provision is shockingly inadequate. It just seems like we throw smarties at people and put them in an unknown category, and then it's a problem that can never be reported on properly, and we can, you know, sweep under the rug and ignore. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Take care.
Bye.